Today, we're exploring the easiest ways to make money in Farming Simulator 25. By easiest, I mean methods that require minimal effort from us while workers can handle most of the job. I'll evaluate each method based on 3 categories: workload, startup costs, and return on investment speed. At the end, I'll pick the best of the easiest. Each method will be tested over exactly 1 in-game year, with a maximum starting budget of 1 million. Let's start with bees, where the only real task we have is selling pallets. In other words, making money. I purchased a plot of land and placed 1 large beehive on it for 3,000, which seems like a small investment. Then I entered a long winter slumber lasting exactly 1 year. After that time, I had 2 crates of honey on a pallet. I bought a tractor with a front loader, moved the pallet aside, and slept until March. Why? Because that's when honey fetches its highest price. To ensure this test is fair, I'll sell products at the times and places where they have the best prices. Selling the honey earned me 582, which means the investment would only pay off after more than 5 years. Of course, this calculation only considers the cost of the hive, excluding the price of the land and the tractor with the front loader. Factoring those in would push the break-even point even further. In summary, bees get 1 star for return on investment, 4 stars for workload, and 5 stars for startup costs. A more detailed analysis of bees will appear in an episode where I'll be testing factories. In that episode, I'll also examine greenhouses and rank greenhouse crops, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. It's going to be a big one. Today, I built the largest greenhouse and I decided to grow lettuce. Besides the greenhouse itself, you also need a tractor, ideally one with a front loader, a water tanker, and a water source to fill it from. I initially opted for paid water because I didn't know at the time that the windmill provides free water. But that's beside the point. After emptying 1 tank, I decided to build the water source a bit closer so that I could simultaneously fill and empty the tanker. It looks a bit funny with the numbers changing, but this way, if you leave the tractor there, you can fast forward time for a year without running out of water because it keeps refilling. That's exactly what I did. However, I didn't fast forward the entire year because I noticed just in time that the storage was almost full, so I had to load some pallets. Unfortunately, they don't spawn in 2 rows like wool does, so you have to load them individually, which is a nightmare. I even considered using auto load, but there's still no pallet auto load trailer on ModHub, so I had to do it manually. I loaded half the trailer, fast forwarded time to complete the year, and then loaded the rest. It took me forever, but somehow I barely managed to fit everything on 1 trailer. Next, I fast forwarded to January, as that's when lettuce has its best price. If I'm reading this correctly, I had 48 pallets on the trailer, with each holding 1,000 liters. Selling everything earned me over 96,000, which is an amazing result. The greenhouse costs 36,000, and I'm not counting the cost of water since you can get it for free from a rice field. For more on that and other Farming Simulator 25 secrets, check out my previous video. Back to lettuce and greenhouses. While the profit is great, loading the pallets was a nightmare. So I decided to test the option where pallets are sold automatically as they're produced. I set my money to 0, and after a year, I had 73,000. I used free water from the rice field, so that's pure profit. In my opinion, this is a far better option than loading pallets manually. Let me know what you think in the comments. To summarize, for greenhouses, I give a full 5 stars for return on investment, 4 stars for workload because you can set up automatic sales and only refill the water, and 5 stars for startup costs because you can buy several greenhouses with a starting budget of 1 million. As we all know, solar panels are an incredibly easy source of income since there's absolutely nothing we need to do with them. But the real question is, how long does it actually take for them to pay off? I spent 840,000 solely on the panels themselves. To keep things clear, I set my account balance to 0 and fast forwarded time by exactly 1 year. After returning, I had $412,000 in my account, meaning this investment would pay off in just over 2 years. Once again, let me emphasize, we don't do anything at all with these, and we're looking at a net profit of around 34,000 per month. So, to summarize solar panels, they offer a solid return on investment, minimal workload, and manageable startup costs, especially since you can opt for smaller, less expensive panels as well. Another option for passive income is wind turbines. With a starting budget of 1 million, you can afford to place only 1 large wind turbine. From what I've observed, smaller turbines have a similar profitability, but I'll cover this topic in more detail in my video about factories. For now, the process is the same as with solar panels. Set your balance to 0 and fast forward a year. When I returned, I had $309,000 in my account. Compared to the panels, the turbine would take significantly longer to pay off, almost 2.5 years, as opposed to just over 2 years for the panels. That said, wind turbines are still a reliable money generator, but solar panels are clearly the better option in this comparison. Summing up wind turbines, they have a slower return on investment compared to panels, require no work at all, and their startup costs are flexible, as you can also choose smaller, less expensive models. So it's time to take a look at sheep, but it won't be as straightforward as you might think. Sheep are simple to care for since they require only one type of feed, grass, and in fact they can graze on a pasture that provides 100% of their feed. What's even better is that they're one of the most profitable animals, and I know this from an earlier video where I tested animal profitability. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend catching up. At first glance, sheep might not seem like the easiest choice, as theoretically you'd need to collect grass for them. While the option to let them graze on pasture and get 100% feed exists, it still doesn't work properly, even after updates due to a bug where the grass doesn't regenerate. However, there's another way to reduce the effort to a minimum. First, we purchase a sheep pen, then we build a fabric factory. At this point, you have two choices: either place it normally and manually move the wool pallets, or use free mode, where the wool pallets automatically transfer into the fabric factory. Since this video focuses on the easiest methods, I set it up for automatic transfer. Next, we need a tractor and a round bale loader. The setup I picked might look a bit odd, but it works just fine. Instead of cutting grass ourselves, we simply buy hay from the store. I purchased 24 round bales up front to ensure I wouldn't have to worry about it for a while. It's not a huge investment, costing $18,000 in total. Admittedly, that's quite a bit for hay, but don't worry, it's just the beginning. It's important to choose round bales because unloading square bales from the trailer might not work properly, while round bales unload perfectly and keep the trough continuously refilled. To maximize our profits, we also need a clothing factory, as our goal is to optimize earnings. With a $1 million budget, there's still plenty of money left over. So I decided to build a house nearby to speed up time and keep everything under constant supervision. The only thing left to do was to buy the animals, turn on the factories and go to sleep for a year. After a year, I bought a trailer and a forklift, leaving the worst part, loading the pallets. Despite appearances, there were a lot of them, as the factory's storage capacity is quite large. As soon as I removed some pallets, more would appear. After a long and grueling process, the pallets finally stopped spawning, and I managed to fill almost the entire trailer. I fast forwarded to April when the clothes were supposed to fetch the best price. I rushed to the market where I sold everything for just under $390,000. Taking into account only the sheep pen, animals, and factories, this investment would break even in about 2 years. Even better, I still had plenty of hay bales left and a full trough. Since loading the pallets was quite tiring, I decided to test the option of selling clothes directly from the factory, just like I did with the greenhouses. To test this properly, I set my account balance to 0 and fast forwarded another year. After the year, my account showed $285,000. That's nearly $100,000 less than manually selling the clothes at their peak price. Which option do you think is better? Let me know in the comments. For the return on investment, I'd give 3 stars, as using the automatic sale option would mean a break-even point of almost 3 years. For the amount of work, I'd rate it 4 stars, similar to the greenhouses, as you only need to top up the hay if choosing automatic sale. For the initial costs, I'd also give 3 stars, because to expand production, you need a new animal pen filled with sheep and an additional fabric factory. The clothing factory can handle output from 2 fabric factories, but as I mentioned earlier, we'll dive deeper into factories in another video. The winner of this episode is, without a doubt, the greenhouse. Solar panels and wind turbines are ridiculously easy, but they're so hands-off that you might as well just give yourself money, as the only thing you need to do is build more of them. Last place goes to the bees, as they have the longest return on investment. These were, in my opinion, the easiest ways to make money. If you know of any others, be sure to share them in the comments. There might even be another episode in this series, because I still have a few tricks up my sleeve. And when we wrap up this series on the game's economy, I'll prepare a video featuring the best money-making methods, not just the easiest ones. So subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. See you soon!